Hello, my name is Jason Timmins from MBM. We're a managed service provider, an MSP, and a Microsoft partner. And what I'd like to show you is how you can take a brand new computer and deploy it to a fully working corporate desktop very easily and smoothly using modern Windows 10 and Microsoft 365. So what I've got here is a new laptop. It's a Lenovo ThinkPad, and I've basically taken it out of the box, connected it to the network and turned it on. And what we're going to do is step through the process of getting to a usable corporate desktop. And by usable I mean I can get into Outlook and look at my emails, open PDFs, that sort of thing. Just for fun, we'll start a stopwatch and see how long it takes to do that. So let's start our stopwatch and then we will get going. So what I've done so far is answer a few questions about the country and the keyboard layout and accepting the end user license agreement. So let's choose to set this machine up for our organisation rather than personal use. And this will come around and ask me for my Microsoft 365 login credentials. So let's do that. And what we're seeing here is the new passwordless authentication mechanism from Azure AD. So this is a mechanism that allows people to sign in but without using a password. So I'm going to use my authenticator app to answer 35, and I'm going to click approve. My phone will then scan my fingerprint and the setup process will continue. So what this is going to do, it will join the computer to the 365 tenants, join it to Azure AD in a full Azure AD join. It will then install the Intune agent, and Intune will then deploy various policies and configurations and applications based on the configuration of this laptop and our organisation as a whole. So if I expand out a few of these options here, you can see that the machine is joined to the Azure AD. It is it's registering, and it is now installing the mobile device management agent. That's the Intune agent. And there might be some restarts in here, but the results will be essentially my profile applied to this brand new computer with almost no interaction whatsoever from my part, and certainly very little interaction from an IT department or an outsourced IT services company like us. It would be feasible to send off-the-shelf laptops to clients and customers and employees who are out in the field and have them simply enter their 365 contact details, account details, into the laptop as it starts and kick this process off with a great deal of success. That would work very nicely. We'd install their Office for them, get them going, secure the machine in a way that IT and the company would like it secured, and ensure that that everything works nicely. This now has moved to the second phase of the process, whereby we are now configuring the device with device level settings and policies. Intune has applied a security policy and is now busily installing the 3 applications that we require to deliver a working desktop. This being Office 365 Pro Plus, those are the Office applications installed onto the machine. The Azure Information Protection Client, that is the mechanism that allows you to classify content, so that this user can take part in the content classification aspect of the files in the business. And we're also going to install the Adobe Acrobat Reader, so that we can open our PDFs in our preferred Acrobat client. And as you can see, it's already gotten to the second part of the second of 3 apps. It doesn't detail which is being installed, but the Office 365 Pro Plus applications, of course, will take the longest amount of time, because those are the lion's share. So for the most part, I think at this point in time, a British person would probably go and make a cup of tea and return to view the progress in a few minutes. And if you don't mind, I think I might do that myself. So perhaps we'll fast forward through this little bit, and then we'll see where the stop clock reaches after the apps have installed. Okay then, so where have we got to? Still on 2 of 3. It's worth noting that I'm working here in my home office today, so there's no server infrastructure here. We just have a laptop and an internet connection, and this is pretty much the model we see for most small businesses these days. We generally speaking have customers who are entirely serverless, so we have dispensed with the very last of their small business servers and migrated email to Microsoft 365, to files, to OneDrive and SharePoint, and dealing with computer management and security and what have you through Intune. And we found 365 to be an excellent suite of products, and really does deliver the very best way for a small business to migrate to the cloud. This process here is often very useful for new computers, but we see it used most often for the reprovisioning of devices when an employee leaves and the machine is issued to a new employee, or if the machine becomes broken in some way, software installation becomes broken, you can use Intune to reset it back to the factory defaults, and then it can rejoin the network fresh with this process. Similarly, if a staff member leaves, you can wipe the computer back to the factory defaults, rejoin it to the network in around about, I don't know, let's say 40 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes. What we'll get here is what might be regarded as a basic desktop configuration. Any additional applications that are required specifically for this user, so maybe line of business applications or accounting applications or those sort of things, can be installed manually, or if it's important enough, then you can do it in Intune and make it part of your standard build. If the user requires printers, then all those things need to be installed just as before. As you know, dealing with different sorts of printer drivers and getting those installed and configured is always troublesome. I'm sure that Microsoft with Intune have got solutions to such things, but we've never had much success. Aside from that, delivering a working computer in double quick time is very convenient for all concerned. So in a moment, what we'll see is this machine will reboot, and we will then sign in as us with my profile, and the process will continue to do the setup that is specific to my user. So configuring my Outlook, restoring my desktop, and all that sort of thing. We are using a feature of Azure AD called Enterprise State Roaming. That means we can restore all the nice favourite bits of your Windows profile to a new computer without too much involvement. So the files on your desktop, the favourites in your web browser, all those sort of things can come back as part of enterprise state roaming when you join the machine to the environment. So what I will see here is a desktop that is familiar to me. It's got my things on it. It's got my stuff. It doesn't preserve the layout of my old desktop, but all the things that were on my desktop will be on this desktop, and that can be quite a pain point for some customers when they're issued with a new computer. So that's a nice workaround for that, nice solution for that. So as you can see, the machine is rebooted after installing the 3 apps. What it will do now is ask me to sign in and complete the user part of the process. First of all, though, we have to go through the various settings and options and what have you to do with how you want to work with this machine and what you want to share with Microsoft. This is the Lenovo device registration, so we'll skip that, and we get a sign-in prompt. So I will now sign in using my Microsoft 365 credentials. This is a full sign-in, and I will get the welcome message, and then the screen will go blue again, and it will continue in the third phase of the deployment process, which is the setting up of my profiles, my desktop, my sort of my configuration. and let's have a look at how that progresses. So there's often quite a pregnant pause here as it thinks about it. The Intune agent is interrogating our 365 tenant, and he's figuring out what settings to apply to this computer. And if you've ever looked inside the registry, ever looked inside configurations for Windows, you'll know that there are tens of thousands of different options that can be set, and it does take a little while for the Intune agent to figure those out, set them appropriately, and then once that is done, the screen will go away and I will be returned to a usable desktop. At which point I'll open Outlook and we'll stop the clock, because hopefully I should be able to see my email then. For now, we just wait. I think it would be helpful if we saw a bit more information here, a bit more going on, but nevertheless, you have to have faith and let it get on with it. And of course, as with so many laptop computers these days, you don't get a hard drive activity light to look at, so you don't get any reassurance that anything's actually happening. But patience, as they say, is a virtue, so we sit and wait. In our customer base, which is mostly small businesses, we just get to do the simple things in Intune, like the deployment of applications and the setting of policies and what have you. But in a larger business, you can have it download things like certificates that belong to the company and to users. These can be used for VPN sign-ins and what have you. You can deploy Wi-Fi profiles for connecting to the corporate Wi-Fi, so the machine would automatically connect to corporate Wi-Fi securely without requiring a key. And there's a vast array of things that can be done with Intune. It's really quite sophisticated. It used to be very much the poorer brother compared to System Center, but these days it is very much improved and seems to do everything that we could possibly want it to do. So let's see how we're doing on the stopwatch. $17 minutes. Okay, might have to wait a little longer than that, but we'll keep going. This is quite a nice machine. It's a new Lenovo ThinkPad X390 Yoga. So it's one of those bendable laptops that folds back on itself, and you can use it as a tablet. It's got a pen, and this is the second one I've had, and it's much improved over the first generation Yoga that I was using. In particular, this machine has got an i7 processor, and it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM and a solid-state hard drive. So, so very nice piece of equipment. It's got some biometric technology that makes it quite easy to work with. So you can log in by recognising your face, rather like Face ID on iPhones. So you can simply look at the computer when you open the lid, and that will sign you in. And with fingerprint scanners and smart card readers and all these other bits and pieces too. And thankfully the ThinkPads don't come loaded down with too much unnecessary software, so you don't have to do a lot of work removing games and antivirus tools that you don't use and those sort of things. This process as a whole does mean that in some ways you can remove the requirement to have what used to be referred to as a gold image for all of your computers, where you have to image all the hard drives for every new computer that you buy, and your IT department has to go through all that process for every new computer. So if you have 100 new computers, they all have to be imaged in line with your corporate policy. These days you can simply take a new computer out of the box, sign it in as the user in question, and let Intune and Microsoft 365 take care of deploying it into a state that is comfortable and usable for your organisation. There is a further level to this process, which is something called autopilot, which allows large organisations making purchases of lots of machines to say to their distributor, please associate these devices with our Intune environment, our 365 tenant, and when the recipient of the machine, the user, turns on the device, it doesn't ask any of the questions associated with your end user license agreement, with your language settings, with your how you want to use inking and speech recognition and all that stuff that you saw me answer questions to. The IT department can answer questions to that straight away. So basically you turn it on, you're prompted to connect it to your Wi-Fi or plug it into your network, and then you are presented with a branded sign-in page that's got the company logo, the name of the company, and the user simply enters their details and it drops them straight into this process here, in a way that is even more intuitive than this, because the machine identifies itself to them as owned by the company. And I think if you're clever enough, you can know which computer someone is going to own and associate their exact user in 365 with the computer, so it will know who it is for and will pre-populate the email address of the person in the login screen, and all they have to do is enter their password and the machine will deploy automatically. So a very smooth process that is indeed. It's not really appropriate for us as a small organisation who's delivering small numbers of computers to our customers, but I can see it working very nicely if you've got hundreds and hundreds of machines to deploy and to send around the world to different locations and branch offices and home workers and what have you. It can be a very smooth, nice way to work. So how are we doing now? Nearly 24 minutes, which is okay. I've seen this process take about 40 minutes start to finish, which isn't bad given if we didn't have this process you'd have to go and visit each computer and install Office manually, the Azure client manually, the Acrobat client manually, and all of these things are really time-consuming processes. A particularly brave IT department could simply remove people's old computers overnight, replace them with new ones, leave them with a fact sheet on their desk in the morning to allow them to sign in and get going, so long as the process was streamlined enough for people not to not to worry about losing half an hour's time at the beginning of their day. As part of the time we're using here, the machine has had to download all of Office 365 Pro Plus, which is a reasonably sizable download. And although it doesn't take very long on this internet connection here, if you had 30 or 40 machines to deploy, then that could be quite a substantial download over a company's internet connection. The way that Microsoft mitigate that is that the update process, the installation process, will look around on the network for other computers who have already downloaded Office or a Windows update, and will take the update from those computers over your network rather than download it again from the internet. It's a very clever process of new computers finding the files they need, the updates they need from other computers on the LAN, and can make an enormous difference to the speed of deployment of new devices, because they do not have to download all of Office and all of the Windows Service Packs and all of that sort of thing directly from Microsoft over the company's internet connection. So if you have a low bandwidth, high latency internet connection, then that process makes an enormous difference for the deployment of new desktops and laptops. Right then, well, I did mention there was a bit of a pregnant pause here as Intune works its magic and sets the machine up. Hopefully this process will be completed soon, and we will get a desktop or a reboot or whatever it does next. Would be nice to see a percentage bar here, I suppose. Give us some clue as to how close we were to actually finishing, but I guess that's really tricky to do, so perhaps we'll have to wait for the next version of this before we see one of those. Once this machine is joined to the Azure AD and Intune, you can perform all kinds of actions on it from the central Azure Intune portal, namely things like resets and wipes. You can do antivirus updates, push those from the portal. You can apply compliancy policies to make sure that this machine is up to the appropriate spec security wise before it is allowed to access your corporate data. One of the things that we quite like is the ability to control which apps on the computer are able to access corporate files, and this means that you can say that Word and Excel and PowerPoint and what have you can open files in your SharePoint and OneDrive file stores, but other programs cannot. So often as a test we take the Notepad application and we make it such that it is not able to open text documents that are inside a document library, a business document library, and it serves to illustrate the fact that that you don't want every unknown application accessing your data files. It provides very good protection from a malware infection, because what you're creating is a white list of applications that are allowed to access your work data, your corporate data. Any other programs at all are not allowed to access that data, which means that Notepad can't, and another random piece of malware can't. So if you were to get an infection on a computer that's got this configured, then the malware cannot reach out and infect your entire company-wide OneDrive and SharePoint document libraries, because the operating system will block it, because the executable for the malware is not part of the whitelist of applications that are allowed to access your corporate files. And given the prevalence of malware these days knocking around the internet, and that is a quite an important thing. Let's see how we're doing. 33 minutes. Okay. I would expect to see some progress in the next few minutes, and maybe we'll get to see a desktop. Who knows? Seems to me that no matter how fast your computer is, this process always takes a long time. Here we go. So you can see all of a sudden it's dropped through the security policy 1 of 1. Now it's just having a little look at this app that needs to be installed. That's completed, and we either now get a reboot or it drops me to the desktop. Okay, so this computer's got all the biometrics that I mentioned, fingerprint and face recognition, but for now I'm going to skip that. Our security policy says that we must set a PIN, so I'm going to do that. I use the MFA again in its slightly less sophisticated mechanism to set a PIN, so I'll just lean in and do that. And then we may well get a desktop. Righto, so this is a default Lenovo background, and that will not change because the backgrounds don't seem to be transferred using enterprise state roaming, but that's okay. What I can do now is I can go into Outlook. You can see that Outlook is installed. Let's just dispatch that message. Here is Microsoft Teams coming in. In the meantime, let's just enter my email address into Outlook and have that connect. In the background you can see that Teams has loaded and is connected to our tenant. Outlook is doing its thing and will automatically add the mailbox for my email. You can see that the desktop does not yet contain my files, my links, my documents that I've saved to the desktop, but it will soon. Okay, so that is done, and Outlook will then connect to 365. We'll have a look at my mailbox, we'll download the details of it, and we'll start to do the initial sync of my folders and what have you. And then I might even stop the stopwatch. Around 38 minutes. Okay, so what you should see now is my icons will appear on the desktop soon. Intune there was updating the OneDrive client, the latest version, and connecting it up to our tenant. So here we are. This is my inbox. So that will be 38 minutes and 54 seconds. That's not so bad. From a brand new computer to a machine that has got a working desktop on it with my profile and all my stuff. Let's see if we can use the Acrobat Reader, which was also deployed. Let's switch to using that one, and we'll get to see the Adobe Acrobat Reader and a PDF. There we go. So in the background, more icons have appeared on the desktop, and these are my desktop files. And these have come in through OneDrive. So you can see here that I've got on my computer now a familiar set of files and links and whatnot from my desktop configuration. So that's quite a comfortable place to be. In a few moments my favourites will appear in my web browser, as enterprise state roaming takes care of bringing down all of my configurations and making the machine even more familiar. So there we go, that's the process of getting a fresh, brand new device and configuring it into a workable computer in less than 40 minutes. And I think you'll agree, it's a very smooth way to do, at very least, an initial configuration of a business computer into your environment. So my name is Jason Timmins from MBM, and if you've got any questions, then just ask them at the bottom of the video. Bye bye.